Good evening. This is the Board of Selectmen meeting for Thursday, May 25th, 2017. And the first item on our agenda is the discussion regarding details of colors for the new police cruiser. Lieutenant. How are you?
How are you?
Good to see you.
How are you? Thanks for having me. I'm standing in for the chief signs.
Very good. It's good to see you.
I have lots of handouts. Would you care to see them?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I had 5 total. I think I have enough. So I'm going to pass them. All right. This is the current. These are the contiguous towns. And then we have a brief history here of the past 30 years of Bolton cruisers. Share.
Okay.
Could I come up on short? I'm sorry. It's all right. No problem.
There's one.
Oh, okay. Oh, I've got more coming. And then I've got a packet of, I think we worked to about 32 different options here that we've worked with.
Yeah, I made copies. It's like
Just so here. Okay. Just to give a sense of the timeline, sort of how it's evolved over the years.
I did forward on to the selectmen the email from the chief indicating his preference.
And that was,
I believe his preference was number 6, and I don't remember if it was the first series or the second series.
It was in the second series, so there was option 2 in the file, but number 6. The white
just
one.
want to confirm that it's that one.
Yes. If we're going, if we are embarking down the road of change in them, that was his preference. Before we embark down that road, I've driven white cars, silver cars, black cars in my career here. I don't have a particular preference. What I do have a preference for, though, is continuity and uniformity. Because I think with uniformity, it brings about a message of professionalism. With professionalism, it begets accountability as well. Grew up in the area, so you'll excuse my little bit of Yankee here. It's if it's not broken now, why fix it? I understand that there are some different, opinions or preferences. We've had a black cruiser, at least one, in our fleets, and for the past 10 years, 2007 was when the first black expedition came into the fleet, which is now being used by the highway department. There was a period of time that it was a bit muddled with the fleet of cars. I know that one of the sort of the complaints, especially with officers, was they wanted that uniformity. There's a sense of the teamwork. There's a sense of professionalism. I can think of one call many years back when we were sort of in that transitionary phase. When I was at the first one on the call, and then one of the other vehicles came up that we had in the fleet, and it had started as somewhat of an escalated situation. And it was at that point we were getting some inroads, and all of a sudden another car pulls up and who are they and why are they here? So I guess the question that I need some definition on is, if we are going to change, is it a true problem, or is this something that could be worked through? Is it a difference in opinions that could be resolved perhaps with further explanation at no cost?
Well, certainly this is not my agenda. I haven't heard from anyone that has an issue with the color of the vehicle. The issue is being generated by my colleagues. So I'm perfectly fine with the way it is. I don't see that there's a problem that needs to be fixed, but I'll let these two gentlemen speak.
Yeah, I definitely like having the town insignia on my car. I think that's important in terms of identifying it as a town vehicle. I also you know, looking at the history of the cars, you know, it seems like we went from kind of pretty traditional colorings, and then we went through this, you know, light police cars, then we went for this dark phase, some of them dark on dark, and, you know, just hard to make out with like silver on black, gold on black, and that with the dark tinting kind of, to me, you know, it seems like, you know, Bolton has a low crime rate. I don't think we need to have police cruisers that make it look like we have a real crime problem here. And I feel like some of them have this, you know, the dark, with the dark windows, the dark vehicles. It just seems as if, you know, there's a big problem, you know, with crime in town. And I think, you know, some of these other options certainly give a more helpful, friendly look, and I think that's important in terms of, in so many levels. You know, as a designer, I think symbols are important, and so I think, you know, I think the one the chief picked is great. It has the town logo on it. It looks like, hey, we're here to help you, not like we're here to, you know, we're hiding out trying to catch people. You know, of course, we want you to do your job, but I think in a small town like Bolton, there's an opportunity to be really accessible and friendly, and I think, you know, some of these new paint jobs express that.
And I'm not disagreeing with your, I have my own opinion on colors of cars, and like I said, I am a big fan of uniformity and professionalism regardless. If I had to argue the opposite side, I would say, well, Boston PD and Lowell PD have white with blue markings as well. I'm not sure what the message there is, or if there's a crossing message. And I'm not disputing it. It boils down to whatever they chose at the time. Just knowing a little bit of the inside of the history with the colors of the cars, most of it was born out of necessity and expediency at the time. And it was a gray car. They were looking at the Chargers, there was a bunch of gray Chargers there. We got the first black SUV because we suddenly were out of an SUV and we needed one that was right in the middle of winter, and black is what we got right off the bat. Otherwise, it was going to be a long delay. Like I said, there was sort of a transitionary period there. I know I've had several officers that have, you know, expressed they feel more professional. I think it's good for their morale, and I think it also, since we are representing the town, I think it also represents the town well to have everything tied together. Like I said, we did have, at one point, I think we had 3, if not 4 different vehicles in the fleet. It looked a little lopsided, it looked a little clutched together, for lack of a better term. Don't necessarily think we want to go down that road again. If we do want to transition, I don't think anybody's completely against an out-and-out transition. However, I think what they are most concerned about is the uniformity, and they want to be taken seriously. I mean, obviously, they want to show up to calls, and how this is their business card. This is the most widely seen representation of the police department. I think having some uniformity. So if we were going to do just one, we still have 3 other vehicles that are going to be in service for quite some time, probably the next 4 to 5 years. So if we address it with the one car now, like any of the other cars in the fleet, it's going to get rotated out. You know, they're all given us sort of a rest period. It keeps the mileage down, it keeps the maintenance costs down. So they're not running 24 hours a day and burning out. So we're looking at one car now. Even if we decided on one particular car tonight, we're looking at perhaps optimistically 6 months before it rolls into the back parking lot between, you know, the ordering. Obviously, we deal with the fiscal year, the ordering, the marking up, and everything. Carrying that forward, the next car that would closely match couple of years down the road. So we're still gonna have black cars that will be responding to calls. It's not really gonna necessarily be an option. I mean, if we get a call for service, the person on the other line isn't gonna, press one for the black car, two for the white car. It'll get rotated through. If it is genuinely an issue with changing over the color of the cars, my hope is our maintenance budget is lean as it is. There wouldn't be any extras for completely repainting cars. So do we have a completely non-uniform fleet for the next 3 to 4 years? We can certainly address one car. That's certainly easily doable.
I see your point. They're excellent points. I think all we're here tonight is just the one car. And I think going through advisory, I think you guys are at basically a car every year at this point, right?
So far, yes.
Yeah.
We had to do 2 last year because we had all of a sudden 3 that just went up in smoke, so to speak. They'd fallen apart.
But we only have the one approved.
For this year, correct, yes, sir.
Right now.
I think it's a safe assumption that probably we'll be doing one car a year.
One car a year.
There was one year that there was an experiment to not do a car, and we paid for that later, which is why we only had to double.
No, and I haven't been through 2 years of advisory committee meetings. I think that's the consensus of that committee. So I'm fine with the chief's selection. I have noticed since this conversation's coming up, I was in New York City for a few days. I drove to Clinton. Just anecdotally, it seems like the police departments have different color cruisers. Clinton happened to be, they have a lot of the more traditional lighter coloring. Personally, I'd like to see a clearly marked vehicle, especially on the traffic details. And, I have a car that looks a little bit like, the dark cruisers with tinted windows and everything. I'd like it to be clear, so I'm in favor of the chiefs to try it and see if it helps. It would be a clearly marked vehicle. I agree with Jonathan's points. I think it's less of an intimidating type of thing and more welcoming, which we all want. So I have nothing further to add, but I am in favor of the chief's selection.
And then just one other thing, I think this has been confirmed on, but that the cars come from the factory with 0% tinting on the windshield,
Yes.
7% on the 2 front doors, and then 20% on all the windows after that. So that's
correct.
I just want to make sure that's going to be like in the spec.
The chief has said that has been his standard all along,
Okay.
that all it gets is the tinting that rolls off the factory assembly line.
Okay.
So we'll maintain that.
We've never added any
Okay.
tint to it. It's just, it is what we get brought up a lot. So it's even been brought up in both the Chief of Island here and Chief Nelson. He was looking at that and said, absolutely fine. We're not going to add
So
it.
just to make sure that that's in the specification that goes out for,
No, we'll definitely do that.
So is that the tinting, I know the chief, when he was here the last time, he had a very detailed 2-page spec sheet, is that?
Yes, it would be the
that's
standard
part of it?
tinting, and Jonathan, I believe, is correct. It is 0, 7, and 20.
And is this color, so if we make a motion, we would refer to this, and that would be spec'd out somehow?
It would be, yes.
Okay,
It'll be all part of the specs that when we put it up for advertisement.
okay.
like in terms of this, they come off the lot as white, and we'd just be adding the stripe and the lettering. So it's,
As far as cost goes, if it's that interest to you, I did sit down with MHQ this week with the graphics department, just so we have the right information. The full-length body stripe actually does cost more. They have the package A and the package B. The full-length body stripe does cost more. I know there was a couple that were referred to as preferences that you had with various other communities that were similar in design. Some of those were painted, so just make aware that the single door style, if you will, and some of them, like on that top page, for example, the one at the bottom right there, that's, I think, it's at $140 $50 versus $295. It's not a huge amount, obviously, but it, you know, it is a difference in price. So that's the link.
Any comments? Yes, sir.
Paul Antonelli, Sugar Road. I've never looked at a cop car as intimidating, regardless of what color it is, whether it was the old, you know, white with the blue stripes, the silver, the black. And I've had experiences with police officers, and they have been nothing but friendly. Are we also going to be looking to put a Keurig in the car to hand somebody with a citation? I mean, I think this whole topic of changing the colors of the cars is almost a waste of time, when there are far bigger issues in the world to deal with. And it seems to me that we're more worried about what we're going to do, what color cars we should have, instead of paying attention to the bigger issues in Bolton, whether it be 117, whether it be the culvert that has been waylaid for a year. It seems like more has been put into the color of a car. Is there a definitive reason why we want to change them, other than to make them look friendlier?
Yes.
This is, well, he's just calling on me. This is, I'm Cindy Jake with 171 Kettle Hole Road. I had written a letter to all the selectmen and to John Lowe and the chief of police regarding the color of the cars. I understand what you're saying, but there is an issue around the friendliness factor, and frankly, the color is very important. As white people, we may not have that feeling, especially white males, but I can assure you that my daughter is quite intimidated by the dark police cars and the tinting of the windows. It's a huge issue. And if you're any person of color, it is an issue. So I would highly recommend going to the white cars. I think it definitely sends a message about our town. It is something worth talking about. People are concerned about it. I understand some people are not concerned about it, and they go around feeling quite fine about that. But there are a lot of people that are intimidated by it. And that's why I wrote that letter that I did, because I think sometimes that gets forgotten about. It's important, and the other towns I've lived in have taken it quite seriously.
Well, I've lived in this town 28 years, and it doesn't matter what the color of the car is.
Well,
We have
has
a, excuse me,
changed.
I'm speaking.
Yeah.
We have a very friendly, outward-going police department. I have heard nothing but good things about the police department ever since the day I moved into this town.
I agree.
And I have worked with the police department for quite a number of years, and I keep hearing about all these so-called citizens who have issues with this or that, but none of them come here, and none of them write letters other than yourself, and I know that you're good friends with these two gentlemen and want to support their position, and that's all well and good. But I think, you know, there's so many people that are intimidated by the black police.
Well, with all due respect, Mr.
I'm sorry.
I wrote about my daughter. I wasn't writing because I was friends with somebody, and I don't even barely know these two gentlemen. Aside from that, I wrote because of what I said about my daughter. I agree with you. I think that it's great. Yes, we have this isn't disparaging the police. I'm just saying that there are some people that do see it as an issue. Other towns have seen it as an issue too. This is not, in the context of the world we're dealing with now, this is not an unusual thing to be talking about.
Well, the fact that there only seems to be like 3 individuals in this room who seem to have ever had an issue with this. You yourself said there are lots of people that have an issue, and I'm just, it's just kind of surprising to me that
People of color have an issue with it.
So,
And I'm afraid we're not people of color, we're white.
Okay, first of all,
just identify yourself, please.
Bert Schnitzler, 81 Meadow Road. First of all, I feel like we've wasted 20 minutes that we'll never get back again.
I'm sorry.
Second, excuse me.
Well, you're very insulting.
So all the comments are to the chair.
Yes, excuse me, but, you know, if somebody else writes a letter saying that they don't like the white color, will we go through this again next year and maybe pick out other colors? I mean, are we going to go through this every year? I don't understand why this is an issue. And I've been here for 24 years. I've never had a problem with the police. I've never been offended by it. I've never been offended by the color of a car. I mean, it just seems absurd to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Grace Public over Sugar Road. I don't feel intimidated by the black car. I don't break the law, so I'm not intimidated by it. I drive a white car. Doesn't make me a nice person.
Are you directing your comment?
I'm directing it up front. I'm just saying, the color does not reflect the police officers. And we have people that work really hard in this town and they don't get recognized. And the color is not going to make them better or worse.
Agreed, then white shouldn't be a problem.
Okay,
Break the law.
Yes, sir.
Lieutenant wants to say something.
Well, this is my intermediator sort of coming out here. I have another option I'd like to present. In the spirit of doing more with less, and also in the spirit of community relations and being our continued commitment to community policing, I took it upon myself to develop a online survey system. It was I'm happy to show you.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is this relevant to the purchase of the car?
It is, sir, yes,
Okay.
yes. So what I did was it was a proof of concept. It's completely free. I did it on my own time, and I did it with resources that would be widely available, so accessible to the members of the public. It's an online survey. I could forward you the link right now if you wanted to look at it on your smartphones. It's mobile capable. It's desktop capable. I could pick out, I don't know, 4 or 5 of the particular. Obviously, we have lots of opinions in town. That's what makes us a society. Some prefer the black cars, some prefer the white cars, some prefer the black and white cars. Officer Keller, who is our fleet maintenance guy, has worked very long and very hard. He has a real eye for detail. I know he and one of the other officers they took a little bit of a shot across the bow, to be very frank, with having it changed, because they had worked so hard on trying to just fine-tune that last one. Just as a piece of background, I understand what the concerns are about some of the blacked out cars, so to speak, in other communities. Our car too, which is the oldest one with that pattern, I think it got kicked back 3 times because it kept coming back too dark, too subdued. And I don't disagree. We want to be seen. We are the police. We aren't in the, particularly in stealth mode. I did develop this option just as a tool in the toolkit if need be. I'd be happy to. What my proposal would be is, I could host it within minutes. It's through Google Forms. I could post a link for some consensus, and either on or all the above. The town's Facebook page, the department's Facebook page. I could share it with the closed Vulcan community group that's on Facebook. It's a link. When you go through the survey, and I completely believe with you in the transparency of it all, somebody can select what they want, and you can see what the results are so far. There's a few different ways of employing it, but that's certainly an option I'd be happy to do to help sort of mediate.
What I would like to, I think we should do that on the next one, seeing as we're rolling around one a year, but I would like to kind of close this out and get it ordered, and I think there is some pressure there. So I'm going to entertain a motion that we authorize the purchase with the use of combis for the number 6 on the exhibit, which was the chief's selection in the email, I believe it was. And that I suppose would it be you or the chief that would be responsible for adding these specs to the existing specs?
It'll be the chief, and then the chief and I together will get the order.
Okay, and so that's what I would entertain as a motion.
So moved.
I think including a motion with combines is not really possible, considering that we're having a discussion a little bit later. So I think if you
You
want
already
to...
decided to use combines.
That was
for
for
purposes.
this meeting.
All right. So moved. Second. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you very much. I think you should do that for the next one. Thanks for the time. I very much appreciate it. Next item is the town administrator report.
Since I didn't provide a Minuteman update at the last meeting, I'm looking up for it this week. So I'm going to share with you the school building report to the school committee that I was copied on, that was submitted by the chairman of the building committee, Ford Spalding. So I'm just going to read it verbatim. It's all good news. All is going as expected in Lincoln and Lexington as we go through the permitting process, and there is good news to report from the last evening. Based on the Dover Amendment, otherwise known as Master General Law, Chapter 48, Section 3, and advice of the town of Lincoln's legal counsel, the Lincoln Planning Board voted to accept the total height of the building as currently designed. The FAA from Hanscom previously accepted it. The Lincoln Planning Board voted to close the public hearing. The Lincoln Planning Board will vote to accept the order of conditions and approve the project on May 23rd, which was last Tuesday, and I've not heard an update from that yet. The draft will be written this week. Terms were agreed to last evening. The Lincoln Planning Board also voted to approve a phased permitting process. We'll be able to start getting the site ready for construction and clearing of the site probably by mid-June. Then we can get our foundations permit by the end of September/early fall. Then we will get the full building permit shortly thereafter. We are working and meeting with the Lincoln building inspector to follow this plan. As you know, the district has had to hire consultant peer reviewers, one for the Planning Board and Conservation Commission, and one for the building inspector in Lincoln, to help Lincoln through this process. The same peer reviewer is also working with Lexington. The Lexington permit process for Phase 2 of the construction, which consists of demolition of current building and athletic fields, has been going as expected. With this plan in place, we expect to start the construction process mid-June and complete it for fall 2019 school opening. Demo will start in the fall 2019. Please refer to the updated school building project pages. The construction documents are moving as expected and on time. The team is currently going through the process of hiring a site contractor. Other trade contractors will be added in the upcoming weeks. We are on time, projected ahead of time, as we originally thought we would end Phase 1 in the spring of 2020, and on budget, projected under budget because of the early completion date, and working towards adding our main ad alternate, which are the athletic fields. So I'm pleased to report that everything at this point is progressing very well.
So if I might ask, so are the Minuteman, the school committee for Minuteman, are those meetings televised?
I believe they are, yes.
And what happens when the entire new building, is that away from the existing building, or are they going to have to?
Yes,
So they'll be able to just stay right where they are, and then after it's completed, they'll move over, and they'll
That's right.
tear
That
down
was
the...
part of what drove our design process, that we had no place to have the kids continue their classes if we had to demolish the building. I mean, it would be in phases, it would be incredibly expensive. So we didn't have a lot of site to work with, but we were able to work it in.
And right now, the Neshoba towns, when all is said and done, there won't be an impact on the number of students that can attend based upon the existing numbers?
That's correct.
Okay.
So, good to give good news.
Okay, thank you very much. On to the Board of Selectmen business. First item is the memorandum of agreement for school resource officer discussion and possible vote.
When did you have the
I do.
handouts?
This is information that Jonathan.
This is what we got earlier?
Yes.
Okay. So, I think this was on the agenda the last time, and Mr. Keep wanted time to look it over and compare it with other towns. for a different language, and so do you want to?
Yeah, so I looked at 3 different towns, memorandums of understanding, looked at Weston, Lincoln, and Cambridge. I've spoken many times, over the last year with John Silva, who's the director of the Office of Safety and Security in Cambridge, and he's given me a lot of, useful kind of information and feedback in relationship to school resource officers, and also how they deal with use of force incidents, and so he's been very helpful. Anyway, there were some things that I wanted to add to our document. So under item 1, general principles, I just wanted to add the paragraph, and it's kind of a little bit philosophical, but I think it's, rightly placed under general principles. And of course, this would, the language would change a little bit with our school. But it says, we agree that children or youth are best served when schools, police, prosecutors, and other service agencies work collaboratively and proactively to address the safety, mental health, and well-being of children and youth. The Cambridge Public Schools and the Cambridge Police Department are committed to working together to assist children and youth enrolled in the Cambridge Public Schools. So that would be added, I think, as a 3rd paragraph to the existing document.
So this would actually be 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be the 6th paragraph in ours.
I think it could be added, right above the way they do the disclosure.
Okay, so this would be that would be our 3rd paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then under section B, section
Roman 5.
5, sorry, procedure guidelines, there'd be an additional point called necessary follow-up. A teacher or other school employee.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but so are these basically they're all using the same?
I mean, I think
they are using the same kind of template.
Yeah, basically everybody's using the same template. Cambridge has some things that I thought were important.
And just so
everything.
Where would D go in our Roman 5?
It would go. D would go between C and D.
Between C and D.
So between reporting procedures and responsibility of designated school liaison.
Okay.
We would add necessary follow-up. I'll read it. A teacher or other school employee with knowledge of facts pertinent to the reportable act shall prepare and submit a report on the incident to the appropriate designated school liaison. Notify the designated school liaison of the existence of any physical evidence and take responsible steps to maintain any pertinent physical evidence in a secure place. So it's just giving, no incident happens. The incident doesn't just start once the school resource officer gets involved. There's a whole series of events that take place before that happens. And so it would be getting any of the school staff who are involved before the SRO comes on the scene to write reports and document what's going on. And then there's
F, right?
There's F, H, and I, which would be added. Right after responsibility of designated school liaison and before implementation. And so that just kind of talks about the police presence in school. F says it's the goal of the Cambridge Police Department to meet the needs of all Cambridge children and youth. In collaboration with the Cambridge Public Schools, the Cambridge Health Alliance, and the Cambridge Department of Human Services, we will attempt to identify those students who may be at risk for problematic or unsafe behavior and link them to support and services they need. In this endeavor, we will seek to assist families by offering to develop an action plan that is tailored to meet the unique needs of the child. It is extremely important that police officers report to the main office upon entering a Cambridge public school. The principal, head of upper school, or designee alone has control of the building at any given time. The principal, head of upper school's foreknowledge of police presence in the building can do much to facilitate their operation and still prevent escalation of any existing situation requiring police response. When the police have assumed responsibility in a criminal investigation, the police naturally are the decision makers concerning that investigation. The principal, head of upper school, or designee shall convey to those authorities his or her best assessment of the situation which may not be apparent to the police. The principal, head of upper school, or designee will not interfere with any investigation once it has been initiated. So that's F. And then G, interview of students, and it's really, just summarize, that it's the intention, that most interviews would take place.
I don't think you didn't want G, did you? You said
No.
DFH and I. In your email, DFH.
I might have missed that, but I think that should be included.
G.
So, G. Yeah. So that's just about interview protocol of students. H is arrest of students, trying wherever possible to arrest students if, necessary outside of school. The same is said about the interview process. And then I is about emergency mental health issues. So it's just kind of, it's long to read, if I can read it if you think it's important.
So just procedurally where we are, so those sections would be, C would be followed by D from the Cambridge document. E would stay where it is. Our old D would be E, and then these letters would roll out as they are in the Cambridge document, F, G, H, I.
Yeah. So obviously, this is adding, I think these paragraphs would have to be, reviewed by town council in terms of integrating them into the whole document. But I think they just provide, a little bit more of, I just think important ideas about, they add important ideas to the document for the liaisons from the police department and the school to discuss, gives them more, more ideas to discuss and, to try to prevent incidents.
So procedurally, we would be redlining these in there into the document, then transmitting it back to the school committee, or would we go back to council first, or how would it go?
We would integrate those comments as red line changes into the document. I'd suggest we run it past council before we pass it on to the school committee for their comments.
So this is just really, we're proposing comments to the document that they gave us.
Yes.
I personally think it's a good idea. It broadens the document. It doesn't impact anyone's authority at all. I think it's consistent with what we have already. It just flushes out some additional issues.
But I
I'm in favor of it.
but I think when we had this
And
discussion.
again, I'm sorry to cut you off. And again, this is just we're providing comments to the first draft that we received from the school committee. So they delivered us a draft, we're adding our comments and shipping it back essentially.
Yes.
Well, actually, the school committee actually approved the document.
The school committee has voted the document as presented.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Now, as we discussed the last time, and as Don put in an email dated May 3rd, 2017, in the second paragraph, he stated, and we discussed it at the subsequent Board of Selectmen meeting, please remember, as town council has stressed to me, that the intent of the MOU is to memorialize reporting procedures, most of which are dictated by statute, and to identify responsible roles of those involved. It's not intended to include things such as how issues regarding liability should be handled. Issues such as those should be handled as a separate document, such as a side letter. And I think we had a further discussion that the document should really be dealing with reporting procedures and identifying liaisons, and that any specific procedures needed to be dealt with in a separate document. And while some of these are kind of gray, the letter I towards the end, dealing with emergency mental health issues, is certainly one of those mechanical kind of things that really need to be discussed between the school committee and the district. I don't think the Board of Selectmen in Bolton alone really have the authority to be dictating that kind of stuff.
We don't have the authority to dictate. These are just comments shipping back.
I understand, but you want these included in the document, and you know, Bob Gibbons specifically stated things like that really should be dealt with in a separate document in terms of how we're going to implement this, and for this situation you want to deal with it this way, and for that situation you want to deal with it in a different way. And clearly I is one of those kinds of things.
Well, my understanding of the MOU is that it's a communications document and reporting document. I think the two items that were slated for separate drafting was how liability is handled. That's one, and we have a date for a fall selectmen meeting to discuss, September selectmen meeting to discuss that further. And the other one was escalation. Actually, the escalation was for September, and the liability, we don't.
Liability, I'm not sure we had a firm date. The roles and responsibilities document is targeted for September.
So I don't have any problem shipping this over there. Whether or not they're going to agree to it, I have no idea. I think all of these are reporting and communication. Which one are you saying, Stan? That you think?
Well, particularly emergency mental health issues. I mean, that really, and arrested students. I mean, this is, the MOU memorializes reporting procedures and identify responsible roles.
And communication.
And communication, but not dealing with, you know, how do you deal with arrested students? How do you deal with emergency mental health issues? Those really need to be dealt with in a separate document.
Well, I think, you know, there are sections here in here related to the liaisons discussing prevention and de-escalation strategies, and I think...
I mean, this is an MOU from another district,
yeah,
from another town. It is an MOU.
Well, it's an MOU between a police department and a city school system, which may not necessarily be a regional school system, and you can't necessarily, how they decided to draft it and what went on is up to them, but they may not have a school committee. Cambridge is Cambridge. We're dealing with Bolton, Stowe, and Lancaster, so we're dealing with 3 different towns and a school committee of which has representation of those 3 towns. So the structure is a little bit different.
Right. Again,
and I don't think that we should be sitting here thinking that we can dictate, you know, what terms. And I think, you know, fine, you want to put these in there and get comment, that's fine. But I think, you know, this type of discussion really should be held in more of a forum where you have the district and you have the school committee and the other 2 towns. While it is our police department, it is a regional high school.
I think prevention and de-escalation are important issues related to, you know, protecting protecting the town, protecting the school resource officer, protecting our students, protecting our school's reputation. So I think it's very important to get these in there.
No one's disagreeing with you that they're not important. They're very important. They just don't necessarily belong in this document.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's see how it goes. I don't think there's no harm. So I'll entertain a motion to redline the items from the Cambridge document as previously discussed into the school committee's draft that they delivered it to us, and leave it up to the town administrator to send it along back to them, and however it stops at council first or not.
Okay.
So do I have a second?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All right. The next item is the vote and execute the agreement between the town of Bolton and the Bolton Police Union, Local 286, Mass Coalition of Police, IUPA, AFL-CIO.
And as I explained in an email recently, this contract memorializes the language that was in the memorandum of agreement that was signed last year. It's taken many months to get it converted into contract language. It has been reviewed by Labor Council, myself, and since ratified by the union. Labor Council has attested that there's no wording in here that isn't in the MOU, so there isn't anything different than what we agreed to last year in the MOU, and we've been operating to the MOU since that was signed.
Okay. So do we need a motion, or do we just need to sign?
Well, we should have a motion to ratify and sign the contract.
Unless there's any questions or comments?
Nope.
So I will take a motion to empower the Board of Selectmen to execute the agreement between the town of Bolton and the Bolton Police Union.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 And with the signature of this contract, the union will be notifying me of the intent to begin negotiations for the next contract, whereas this contract expires in, wait for it, 5 weeks. June 30th, 2017.
So do I date this, or,
Yes.
so today's the 25th?
It's sort of like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. Once you get to one end, you just go back and start in the other one again.
So true. So true.
I've been here 8 years, and I'm hard pressed to think of more than maybe a 6-month stretch when I haven't been working on some contract.
So the next item is to vote to authorize Mr. Lowe, the town administrator, to execute the PARC grant, of an acronym, PARC, for Camp Virginia.
Yes, as part of the contract requirements of the grant submission requirements, that the agency needs to see affirmation of who was duly authorized to sign the grant. And since grants traditionally go right up to the end, you know, they're getting sent in at the last minute, rather than have the chair sign it, which, you know, you may or may not be available when the signature is needed. I will be, so, and it's not unusual for me to sign contracts anyway, so they want to see certified minutes of who is designated to be authorized to sign the grant contract.
And this is, we already voted in favor of executing the grant, and this is a grant for the $400,000.
Yes.
And then what has to happen by year end?
By calendar year end, we need to have, if we've gotten the grant award, then we need to have had a town meeting to vote to purchase the land. And we need to have, I believe we need to execute the purchase and sale by year end as well. But we at least have to have a town meeting vote to purchase the land.
And this would be the only, as far as we know right now, the 400,000 of the 1.3 million is the only piece that's grant eligible, and the rest would be by levy or borrowing?
Yes.
I don't have, we have already voted, all we're doing is vesting in the town administrator the authority to do what we already voted.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Any questions? I will then entertain a motion to vest in the town administrator the authority to execute the park grant
So moved.
as he sees fit.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The next item is discussion and possible vote regarding the expanded use of combis. I put this on the agenda. Combis is mandated now, where about 50,000.
Well, it's for certain procurements, so for certain types of procurement. It's not necessarily a $50,000 limit. Actually, it could be, depending on what you're doing, it could be as high as $100,000, but it's based on types of procurement. For instance, the 2 culverts that we just did, it was mandatory that combis be used. So there are certain things that are mandatory and certain things that are optional.
So why I'm in favor of the expanded use of combis is that, to borrow Don's phrase, it stretches our procurement dollars, our tax dollars for purchasing. It broadens it to a much wider supplier base. To the extent there's any, kind of rusty relationships that we just keep going back to time and time again, this would open it to a statewide or wider group of suppliers.
Well, for example, and I use this example with you, and it's a small dollar item, but it's been a source of frustration for me and others for years, which is, getting as few as one firm voting or bidding on our oil, our heating oil. This is a good example to broaden the base for that. So is it $50,000? No, it's not. But is it a good use of it? Yes, it certainly is. So it's a commodity that would make sense to advertise for here.
So just to frame the potential vote, we had discussed earlier today, roughly with you retaining discretion on when to pull the trigger and when not to pull the trigger, but just to further get deeper into the water, where the purchase was $20,000 or above.
Actually, I think we said 25,000.
25,000.
Yeah, I mean, as a chief procurement officer, I have discretion in some areas. Of course, it's all by statute anyway. But I have discretion in some areas. If there's an area where clearly, state bid contract would be most advantageous to us, I may not use combis, but as we discussed, for a capital acquisition, $25,000 and up, and that is the conversation we had. I'd be more than willing to try that and see how it goes.
Okay.
So has oil been 25,000 and above, or?
I don't think so, but that's okay. I mean, you can do it for, you're not really bound by the dollar thresholds in some areas as much as it is. You're having a difficult time finding good suppliers. It could be a $5,000 item. You could still do it. I wouldn't want to do it for every $5,000 item because that's all I do all day long. But for certain applications, it would make sense.
And it's definitely going to expand the group of suppliers.
Mm-hmm. Well, can't shrink it.
No.
Can't shrink it.
Yeah.
So no, I'm very open to it. And as I said, the $25,000 capital procurements would be a good way to start.
And is there any way, is there any way to weave services in there? Or what other area?
Well, services, there's all sorts of services that we could put in there if it makes sense. So again, when an opportunity comes up, I wouldn't pretend to be able to name them all off the top of my head, but when an opportunity comes up, I'll see it. I'll know what it is.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is just an additional way to procure goods and services. You're not mandating this for any particular set of goods and services, correct?
Not right now. I mean, it already is mandated by statute.
Right, I
above
mean,
a certain
beyond the
level.
statute, you're not doing anything beyond the statute.
On a minimal basis, we would be, but nothing of a broad,
We're
nothing
gonna-
of a broad sense. We're kind of flying, I think it's fair to say we're flying out a trial balloon and see
Right.
how it goes.
It wouldn't do anything to delay procurements or anything like that in the future.
No, I think it's gonna expedite everything, expand the supplier base, and hopefully bring down costs. I mean, the ideal
No,
thing.
I understand that.
No, I just want to respond. The ideal thing we would see is that the money we've appropriated at town meeting wouldn't be used, or less of it would be used.
Right, no, I understand that piece of it, and that's fine. I'm just saying, it won't add an additional delay to any procurements that we.
No,
go
you
through.
type it right on there, it comes right up live, and
Okay,
it's a
that's-
beautiful, beautiful system.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, with those culverts, we got 40 plan holders out of that, 40 firms statewide. Do we need a vote?
I'm not, I mean, I don't think you necessarily require, I mean, I certainly understand the direction of the board. I don't think you need to vote to direct me on that.
Okay, then we'll move to the next item, which is a request from Tie Rods to place signs at Route 495, Route 85, Route 110 for annual reunion being held at the Bolton Fairgrounds in Lancaster on September 10, 2017. And I did, documentation was forwarded to us in advance of the meeting, and I did review it, and I have no questions.
And this is an annual event, and we've never had any issues with this that I'm aware of.
They're very good putting it up and taking it down the next day.
Very good.
Questions?
So I would entertain a motion to approve the request from Tie Rods.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item is an Eagle Scout invitation and commendation for signature letter to be drafted and emailed to you. And we have a draft
Yeah, you do,
in front of
John.
us, right?
Yeah, I believe this was not in your packet, so I just gave each one of you a draft of the letter that I prepared. If the board is okay with it, we can sign it, and I'll be sure that they have it in time for his
So this is
ceremony.
Matthew Frey.
Yes, it is.
He built a bench.
Mhm.
Built a few of them, I
Few,
think, 4.
Four,
Yeah.
yeah. Over at
That's
Florence.
Long, sorry.
Yeah.
So this looks great. I have no questions.
No questions?
All set. I'll entertain a motion to approve the letter in front of us.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're all signing?
Yes, you are all signing it.
A few copies.
Hmm?
3 copies?
Yeah, no, just that one right there, that's good.
And vote and approve the payroll and bills warrant. Any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the bills and payroll warrant number W17/24 and W17-24A.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And you do have minutes.
That's right on.
September 8th and 22nd, November 17th, and executive session minutes of September 22nd.
No, I wrote a 7.
You have.
Sorry. You should just vote on that.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of September 8th, September 22nd, and November 17th, I do notice that on September 8th, September 22nd, and the 16th, we also have executive sessions at the beginning?
Yeah, you had done some of those already, because they were voted to be signed and released. We had a request to release them as a public records request.
All right,
So you've done those at a previous meeting.
okay.
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Where are we supposed to? I'm sorry.
Right up here.
Is it sign or initial?
Either one is fine.
And that concludes our regular session.
Now we take a motion to go into executive session.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Moved.
You should read that.
Need to read it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bottom there.
So this is the executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for the fire union. As the chair finds that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the board's bargaining position, the board will not convene to open session. So we have a...
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Keith,
Here.
Rain.
Yes.
Here. Yes.
Nice work, Chief.
Thank you.
Not bad, Tom. Look at the time, right on
Right
schedule.
on.
Right on
Just like
schedule.
I planned.